Welcome to IT Study Part. In last video, we have discussed related to Spring Boot MVC. We have three ways to configure. What is that? Configure with the Servlet container. We have three ways of Servlet configuration with the Servlet container. And in three ways, first way is the declarative approach. By using web.xml file, we can configure by using servlet. We configured servlet by using web.xml file. So now, useful if this approach is useful if the servlet component is Servlet component is a ready-made servlet component, and XML configuration are allowed in application. Then this approach is useful. Otherwise, this approach is not useful. Like dispatcher servlet configuration, XML driven Spring MVC application in web dot plus annotation driven application. Okay. Now, annotation driven application by using by using web servlet, by using web servlet. This is useful for the user defined servlet component. Okay, programmatic approach. This is the dynamic registration and configured by using the servlet context dot add servlet method. So this is the 100% code driven Spring. Okay, this is the 100% no code. When they configure the predefined servlet component like dispatcher servlet in the Spring Boot MVC, this is the predefined servlet component. So that's why in Spring Boot MVC, it's using dynamic registration. Programmer not take any responsibility to register or to configure the servlet like dispatcher servlet to be the servlet container. Programmer not responsible for this purpose. Okay. And so now our Spring MVC, four ways to develop, we have four ways to develop Spring MVC application. First is the declarative annotation, 100% code driven is the different approach. This is follow the Spring MVC approach. Okay. Now Spring Boot is the fourth one. This is our course related thing. Okay. So now this is our total. This is our total. So now Spring Boot MVC, we need to use following two annotations. Spring Boot MVC, we use two annotations. First is the controller, second one the request controller. Controller annotation give to the intimation to the controller. This is nothing but a controller or handler class, guys. This annotation gives to the intimation to the like servlet container. This is the servlet container, ISC container. This is nothing but a handle class. So this class treated as a handle class, and the request mapping, it make Java method controller of the right controller class as a handler method in the request path and request mode, get and post mode. Okay. We have different way to pass parameters. Okay. We have different way to pass a string like return type. Okay. These many things we can pass as a parameter to in this method, guys. Now, this is the return type we can pass here. String is the good and map is the most preferable thing is map. Okay. So now today's discussion is session 5. Today's discussion is how to implement internally. Today is totally internal part. Okay, today's discussion is internal based. How Spring Boot MVC configure servlet dispatcher servlet dynamically. Okay, what is the process? Step by step, I will write it. Then you will get clarity. I will teach you. Don't worry. So now today's session is session 5. Session 5. So now my question is guys, my question is that Spring Boot MVC will not use any predefined dispatcher servlet. We are not use any predefined servlet dispatcher servlet class does not contain any @web servlet annotation. Then how dispatcher servlet is registered with the servlet container during the deployment of the web application? Now, this is the question. My question is, what is that? In Spring Boot MVC configuration will not will not be configuration will not be used. Configuration will not be used, and the predefined will not be used, and the predefined dispatcher servlet DS I am writing, so does not contain web servlet does not contain web servlet annotation. Annotation does not contain web web servlet annotation web servlet annotation web servlet annotation. Then how dispatcher servlet is registered or configured? It's your choice. You can say registered with servlet container or IOC container. Okay, servlet container during the deployment of the web application. So now this is my question. So now anyone having idea about this, so tell me guys, how long? Why? Because in this listen my question, try to understand my question, what I'm trying to saying, what I'm will not be used and predefined as servlet. Okay. So here is not using predefined servlet and not contain web, not contain not used and the predefined dispatcher servlet and servlet does not contain @web annotation. Here we are not using MVC, will not be used. Okay, Spring Boot MVC configuration. Here we are not using. Okay. Okay, one thing is reminding, Spring Boot MVC XML configuration. Na? Yeah, XML configuration. We are not using XML configuration. Okay, we are not using XML configuration in the Spring Boot MVC file. And other thing is the in that file predefined dispatcher select class which are having predefined dispatcher servlet like dispatcher servlet we have. So that dispatcher servlet class does not contain @web annotation servlet. So how dispatcher servlet is registered with servlet container during the deployment of the web application? Are you getting my point? What I'm trying to say? This is my question, guys. So today is total about I will give a clear cut discussion about this, clear cut discussion about this topic. So I hope how dispatcher servlet register with that. Okay. Wait. Yeah. So now dispatcher servlet. So now dispatcher servlet internally use which approach? Dispatcher in last session, I said to you one thing is here. What is that? Spring Boot MVC is not allowed to configuration to critical programmatical approach. This approach is programmatic approach will be used either directly or indirectly done by internally. So done by internally. So this is the meaning. It's done by the internally. Okay, programmatic approach. So now by using which method? Servlet context dot add servlet method. By using add servlet method, so configure these things. Okay. I will show you this practical when I will start showing the practicals. Okay. So now up to that write it. So now my answer is it's taking internally. Now the answer is it internally uses programmatic approach. Programmatic approach, or you can say dynamic registration. Dynamic registration approach using which method? Using servlet context dot add servlet method. Add servlet method. Here having some parameters. Guys. This method having some parameters to register. I will tell you how. All this point I will tell you how. Register. Please write it. Why? Because my team is right now is not there, guys. Some person has leave. Okay. So notes are unable to upload. Okay. So please write it up to that. After that, when I will proper go into the work, and then I will upload it all the notes on the Telegram channel. Okay. So now after that, write it. So please. Otherwise, on YouTube is there. Yeah, you can go and watch. Not required to write. Just listen. Okay. Okay. It's totally your. It depends on you. Total. How you understand. How you can understand. Like written along with me. Otherwise, you listen my boy. That's it. That's enough. Okay. Internally uses now come into the our topic. So internally uses programmatic approach. So Spring Boot, which approach is using internally programmatic approach. This programmatic approach, you can also say that this is the dynamic approach. And this dynamic approach using which method, guys? Yes, C dot add servlet. For what? For what? To register dispatcher servlet. Right? To register dispatcher servlet with servlet container servlet container having which slash is the URL path URL as the which as the mapping URL pattern mapping URL pattern. When I will start practicals, then you can understand more how it's going on internally. So this is the just believe on my word. That's it. Nothing is existed. Okay. So now I will show you one folder is there inside the like Spring Web. In Spring Web jars, one folders are there meta inf. Inside the meta inf, one folder, another folder is there. What is the folder name? Is services. Inside the services, one file is there. Inside the services, one file is there. File name is nothing but the Java ex dot servlet container initialization. This file contain one class. Contain one class. Class name is Spring Servlet Container Initializer. Okay. Now this class is containing, guys. So How it internally work, I will tell you. How the compiler and like Servlet container find these file. Okay, all these points I will tell you. So now here, write it. One structure I'm giving to you. So here, one file is there. What is that? Spring. This is the jar file. Na? Spring web version dot jar. This is the jar file is there. In Spring jar, in Spring jar, in Spring this jar, open this jar, open this jar, open this jar, you will get one folder, meta. You can check it, you can check it, you can cross check my word, okay? INF, you will get one meta INF folder. Inside the meta INF folder, inside the meta INF folder, you will get one file, one folder, services. This structure is the, you can if time is possible, I will show you I will take one session on the dynamic registration, how to servlet, how your servlet, like programmatically, you can servlet, register your servlet, dynamic approach, as a dynamic approach, how. All this point I will show you. I will take one session. Okay, don't worry. Up to that, try to understand. Okay. So now inside the meta MF, inside the services folder, one file is there. One file is there. Okay, one file is there, file name, one file is there, file name is, what is that? Java. This is the file name, not a class, okay, not a package. This is the file, servlet container initializer, servlet container, servlet container initializer, servlet container initializer. Yeah, spelling is good. Initializer. Yeah, now it's good. And in this file, one class is configured. In this file, one class is there, one class name is there, one class name is there. What is the class name? org.spring framework dot web dot spring spring servlet servlet container initializer, servlet spring container initializer. Copy this. Okay. So now this is the total directory structure, guys. You can go and search, open this jar file, then you will get this directory structure. Otherwise, go into the internet, you will get this directory structure. Okay. Now, up to that, good. The next is our next point is my next point is how 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 it will work, how it's work. Okay, internally, suppose first programmer deploy deploy the application inside the server. Okay, the server next is the server container verifies the deployment directory structure. First do what is the server check the deployment directory structures. So now step 2, I'm writing some steps. Steps to perform steps no steps no process to register process to register register dispatcher servlet dynamically get a servlet content, or we can call it steps. steps. I will write the steps. Okay. So now this is our today's agenda. I will write steps, then I will. Okay. If time is possible, then I will show you one time. I will give you one diagram also if time is possible. So now to this is good. So now first step one. Step one is programmer program. Suppose I am the programmer. Okay, I developed one application. And deploy inside the server. Deploy the Spring Boot MVC, web application in web server. Okay. Now, this is the first steps do by the programmer. Then second steps is the servlet container. The servlet container the servlet container verify the deployment directory structure. Verify the servlet container. The servlet container. Servlet. Yeah, servlet. Servlet container. Container. Verify or check whatever you can say. Verifies the deployment directory. Deployment directory structure. Okay. So now this is steps do by the server. Server will check your directory structure is correct or not. Okay. After that, steps three, write it. Step three. Step three is create servlet context object. Servlet context object. This is the server do inside the Spring MVC flow when I was discussed in a Spring MVC batch flow. So there I will taught you, there I will teach you, there I will told you one thing. Uh, Servlet context object servers. Okay, servlet container created by the servlet container and the servlet context object one per application. Okay. So now remember this point. If anyone asks this question, what is servlet context? And servlet context containing the metadata of the application, of your web application, and like all these things created, all these things like classes and objects about related, all these things containing. Okay. So now create what is that? Create servlet context object, then object. Then the next is steps number. This is the very important point. Step number 4. When after the creating servlet object, then this is the servlet container. Then servlet container search. Servlet context initializer file. Servlet context initializer file, where it will search in the meta-inf or service folder of the all jar files that are added to web-inf lib folder. Whatever you file, you added inside the web-inf folder, the servlet container search all the jar file or all the folders and all the jar files which are existed inside the web-inf lib folder. Then it will search one particular file What is the file name? What is the file name? Java x.servlet container initializer file. Then inside the file, one class is there. The class is nothing but org.spring framework.web. All this point I will show you. When I will create one project like a Spring Boot project, there I will show you now guys. Inside. So, uh, in this session, it is not possible. Why? Because I want to install the Spring Boot plugin in my Eclipse ID. Why? Because I will use Eclipse ID. I'm not using like STS, Spring Toolsuit. If it is possible in this way, I will show you one or two example by using STS, Spring Toolsuit. So now, now. So now next is, write it. Next is, I'm slowly I'm teaching. Don't worry. After the creating servlet container searches for what is the Java X dot servlet container initializer. Container initializer. What is that? Initializer file. This is the file. This is servlet context initializer. This is the file. I said to you, this is the file. And this file contain one class name. Okay. This file contain one class name. So class name is the Spring Servlet Container Initializer. Okay. Then file in all where meta inf slash services folder services folder of services folder of services folder of one minute of service folder of all jar file or jar file service folder of or jar file all jar files or jar files that are added to web-inf slash lib folder, which are how many jars, which are jars existed inside this folder. The servlet container will search all jar files, okay? All jar files, jar files of folder and finds in Spring which jar web-spring finds one jar file spring.web- as the version web-dot-jar file. This file container will search this file. Container wants this file. So find this file. Okay. After that, steps 5, sorry. Steps 5 is very important. Step 5 is there. After getting this file, web in a folder, then it will search. Then it will search which file after get gets right gets which file org.spring. Can I write a Spring framework like that? Okay, Spring framework dot web dot spring servlet container initializer. Okay. Now search this initializer class name, class name, class name, from that file. Okay. Which file we get? This file, na? We get this file. After getting this file, inside this file, Servlet container will search this class name. Okay. Now, step six is step six is step six is after the finding this file, after the finding this class name, and then load the class and create the object and call one method. Yesterday, in last session, I have told you one method is there. The method calls our internal all methods, such which method on startup method. Then call the by using this object, call the method called on startup method, and having which thing on startup method having servlet context object as the argument value. So now as the argument value, which contain uh, like uh, servlet container on startup method, servlet container create the object servlet context object. Okay, then load the class inside that like server, then servlet container creates the object of that object of the class, then calls one method on startup method having one class, having what is that having on startup method having servlet context object as the argument. Which thing? As the argument, guys. Are you getting my point? Okay. Are you with me, guys? I hope you got the clear. I hope you understood something. If you watch this video one time, watch one more time. It's okay, not an issue. Okay. So now six steps is load the class, okay, load the class and create create the object and calls the and calls the on start on startup method having which thing having having I said having on startup method having servlet context object as the argument value okay. Now steps seventh after calling on startup method, then this method search for the class in the project implementing which class it will search internally. All the process is the internally, guys. So this is the required very much is required. Okay. So focus. So now it search on startup method. This method search one more thing. What is the thing? One class it will search. Not a class. One interface it will search. What the interface name is? Application. I will show you all the point. I will show you at least next session. Okay. There I will teach you how to create a Spring Boot project and how to install all these things. Next sessions I will teach you. So now up to that, please focus. So total this theory I will use tomorrow session. Okay. Or next sessions. So now next is set the web application initializer interface. Web application initializer interface. This is the interface, and this implementation class is Spring Boot Servlet initializer. Servlet Boot initializer. Are you getting my point? Okay. And find the programmer supplied, and find the this interface finds the one programmer supplied. Programmer supplied means servlet initializer class. Suppose I created one com.itsp servlet initializer. When you create a Spring Boot project, you will get two files. In the two files, one file is there. What is the file name? What is the class name is not a file. This is the class servlet initializer. So when you create the project in Spring Boot MVC, then you will this class you will get automatically. So now write it. Now write it. Write it. What is that? This no, no, okay. This on startup method, on startup method. Now on startup method searches for searches for class in the project. Project implementing what is that org dot spring framework. Can I write spring framework dot web 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 application initializer. This is the interface. Okay, provide implementing okay initializer 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 and this is nothing but what is that interface. Okay, I mean interface and what is that and finds and finds and find what is that and finds the programmer supplied suppose com dot itsp dot servlet initializer. Okay. This is the programmer supplied. This is the programmer supplied class. This is the programmer supplied class. I will show you how. Okay, don't worry. Class. Now next is step 6. Step 7. Step 7. No, step 8. No? Step 8. This one is step 7. Okay, now step 8 is guys. Step 8 is then after this servlet container loads this servlet container will loads this class and creates the object and calls and create the object and again call the on startup method which is having on startup method having which thing on startup having method having as the argument context servlet context object having okay having object as the argument value. Okay, so now write it so yeah, after that I will explain. First I'm writing, then I will do one more time. So loads, after the loads this class loads this class loads this class form.itsp dot okay loads this class and create the object and calls the on startup method having which thing having on startup method having servlet context as SC servlet context object as the argument okay as the argument value. Then steps is the very important. All steps are important. This is the happen internally. Steps 9. All the steps it's going to happen internally when you deploy your application inside the server space. Okay, this will do by the Spring Boot. These steps are done by the Spring Boot MVC. Okay, so ninth steps is guys. Ninth steps is very very important. The superclass of the Spring Boot Servlet initializer is the superclass of the Spring Boot initializer on a startup method execute having logic. Okay, so now the superclass. This is the hierarchy. The superclass is what is that? Spring Boot. This is the child class. This is the child class, and this is the super class, guys. I am writing on super class. Spring Boot initializer, Spring Boot Servlet initializer, Servlet, Servlet initializer on startup, on startup, on startup method, on startup method execute having logics. This which logics having to create to register configure the dispatcher servlet with the servlet container. So now it is performing some operation. So what is that operation? This method having web application context container, IOC container, take the one annotation called and the rate configuration. Okay. Then next one is dispatcher servlet class object having the IOC container. Okay. To register dispatcher servlet with the servlet container. Calling sc.servlet method that servlet with /URL and also enabling load on startup with value 1. Okay, so now I'm writing some point, it's having some logics. This method having some logics. I hope first one it's performed to create to create web application context object. I said to you in the Spring Boot, Spring MVC sessions, which are going on, guys. Inside that, how to create a WAC object, all this point, and also I've given written down. Also, I had given all these points. Okay, so please go and watch the Spring MVC series also. Otherwise, I will give video link on I button, otherwise description also, as well as otherwise in the end of the video we'll get the these videos link. Okay, so now on a startup method container, web application container means IOC container taking main class, taking which one? Main class as the main class as the at the rate configuration, at the configuration. This is the annotation. Okay, configuration class. Now second point is to create to create create these three logics having on a startup method creates dispatcher servlet class object. Create dispatcher servlet class object with the servlet container with servlet container. Now third is what is the third? To register dispatcher servlet object with servlet container. Servlet container. That's it. To register dispatches of the Servlet container. Servlet container. So now how how to register calling the SC servlet context dot add servlet method. Calling the right calling the calling the SC means add servlet context. Add a servlet. Add a servlet. Add a servlet. Add a servlet method and mapping that object, mapping that servlet with which slash URL button. Matching that object and also enabling load and startup. Load on very, very important part of the load and startup. Load on the startup with the value, positive value. Which one positive value? One value. So now this is the total internal process. Guys, how to register dispatcher servlet dynamically, by using dynamic registration. This is the steps. So now I'm giving some like hierarchy, so we will get the clarity. So now here, guys, observe. Here we have one interface. What is the interface? I am already told you. org.spring framework dot web application initializer. This is one. What is that interface? I have already given this interface, guys. Everyone here. Somewhere I given servlet context object, guys. Okay, interface. Yes. Yeah. On startup method, search for a class in the project implementing org.web application initializer interface. Okay, interface. This is the interface, and extending one class, like implementing one class. Which class, guys? Which class? Very, very important. org.spring framework dot boot dot spring framework boot dot internal boot dot web. I think the servlet dot support servlet dot support, like spring boot servlet initializer. Spring boot servlet initializer. This is the abstract class. Guys. Abstract class, and implement this method. Here is the relation between these. Implementation, implements. Okay. So now here is the implementation relations. Okay. So now here one more class should to you. User supplied class are there. What is that? com.itsp dot servlet initializer. This is the class. Okay. Here extend this class with this. Extend this class with Spring Boot in Spring Boot servlet initializer. Extends this class with this. Okay. So now, guys, now. So now this is the hierarchy. This is the hierarchy is there. So this will happen. This will happen. Okay. So when you extend, it will call which class web internally. It will call this like servlet container. Call this method, and call this method, and this web application initializer call on startup method. Web application context like this, like Spring Boot initializer, servlet initializer, Spring Boot servlet initializer on startup method execute having logics. This class on startup method, this class having which one? This class having on startup method. This class having on startup method. What is that, guys? No. This object class having object class this method on startup method, then call this method, guys, execute having logic. This method having these three logics, okay? These three logic create the application context container. This logic create the application context by using which class? To taking main class at the rate configuration annotation. Okay. Now, this is the point, guys. This is the point. And next session, I will show you all the practical. So I hope you understood what I'm trying to say. Okay. So now this is the internal. Okay. Suppose your application. You have an application. Now think about it. Think logically. In Spring MVC. Suppose in simple in Spring MVC, it's programmer responsibility to configure the dispatcher servlet as using as using which one? XML file. Okay, using both approaches. Okay, both approaches in the sense and XML file and annotation as well as. And one thing is there annotation if you are using like @web. Now here in Spring Boot, these type of problems are not there. This type of facility is not there. Okay, so Spring Boot people do this will happen dynamically. So programmer is not responsible to do all these things manually, guys. Okay, that's why Spring Boot is the more industry preferred framework. Okay, so nowadays every project at least you can say 80 to 90% projects built on the Spring Boot. That's it. Okay. Yes. If you have doubt, just comment in the comment box. If you really like my effort, just like it. That's it. So now I want to revise one more time, guys, so we will get clarity. Okay. In suppose my question is that what is my question? We have a Spring Boot MVC. In Spring Boot MVC, XML configuration will not be used. Be used. No, we are not using. We will not use. We are not using. We does not use. Do not use. What is that? XML configuration file. XML configuration file in the Spring Boot application. Now, second thing, predefined dispatcher servlet. This is the point. This is the internal point. Predefined dispatcher servlet in Spring Boot MVC having predefined dispatcher servlet, na guys. So predefined dispatcher servlet also dispatcher servlet also not having which annotation at the rate web servlet. If a dispatcher servlet having this annotation, so not required to perform dynamic registration. It will do this annotation having the registration or the configuration logic to configure dispatcher servlet to the servlet containers. Okay. So now this is the question annotation. Now next is then how. So now question is how dispatcher servlet register with the servlet container during the deployment of the web application. When you deployment, these operation is performed when you deploy the application. In Spring MVC, one videos are there. If you having a still doubt, go and search Spring MVC series. In this channel, you will get an Spring MVC flow theory as well as diagrammatically explanations are there. Go and watch once, then you can understand easily this point. Okay. Okay, so now this is the process. This is the only thing to Spring Boot MVC. Search this file, search this class. That's it. Okay, so why is for searching this file? So for searching this file, like Servlet container, do this all the steps. Search all the steps. First, it's the programmer responsibility. First is the which one? The programmer responsibility to deploy the Spring Boot MVC web application inside the web server space. Okay. So the next is Servlet container. Verify the deployment directory structure. Means verify means checking directory structures are good or not. If now, if directory structure is not good, directory structure is not proper, then give an exception on errors. Okay. So now, next is third step is create after deploying after deploying your web application, create one object. Servlet container, create one object. Object is nothing but servlet context object. Servlet context object having the metadata of about the your web application. Okay, classes and interfaces, abstract classes. Okay, all these things and name as well as name. Okay, servlet context is the one per application. Okay, servlet config is the different and servlet context is the different. So now here is the servlet context. Okay. Now after servlet container. Now next steps is after creating the servlet context object. Next steps is servlet container searches for the which class it will no. This is the class now. This is the file. This is the file. This is the file, guys. So servlet container search this file. Where this file it will search inside the meta-inf and service folder of all jar files which are added inside the web.inf and lib folder and Servlet container search. These are inside the lib folder, all jar files. This will find this file inside the meta-inf folder and services folder. The servlet container suppose servlet container will get this file, okay. Suppose get this file, then it's finding, then it file finds the which one servlet container initializer, Spring servlet container initializer class name. Okay, from the file. Okay, so now from the file, this will search it. And after getting this file, load this class, create the object, load the class and create the object and create after creating the object, call with which method, guys? Tell me. Call simple. Call on startup method. Call which method? On startup method. Call on startup method and having which as the argument. Having which one? Servlet context object as the argument value. Here is having servlet context object. And this on startup method searches for class in the project implementation. Searches for the class project implementing what is that? org.springframework.web application initializer. Searching for this class, implementing class. Searching for this implementation class, implementing initializer class. What is that? Interface. And find the programmer supply. Then after this finding, then find the programmer supplied class. This one. Are you getting my point? Now I hope you get the clarity. Okay. So now after that, I will show you the practically. Don't worry. Okay, when I will start practicals, I will show you. Now here, after that, loads this class where inside the server and create the object and call on startup method, which on startup method is called having the select context object as the argument. Okay. The super class Spring Boot initializer. The super class Spring Boot initializer on a startup method. On a startup method, super class Spring Boot, super class Spring Boot initializer. This is the super class Spring Boot initializer on startup method execute having the logics. Which logics have this one logic have. What is that? To create web application context container, it create and taking main class as the @ configuration and to create dispatcher servlet object with the servlet container and to register dispatcher servlet object with the servlet container. And by using this slash URL pattern and also enabling all, and this will do enabling the this one. Okay, load on the startup. So this is today's session, guys. So I hope you like this video. What I am giving to you, what I'm giving to you continuously, please like the video and share with your friend there, guys. Please. I required your support. Otherwise, I just skip this thing. I'm not skipping anything. Okay. Just I'm teaching what I have knowledge. Same knowledge I am sharing, guys. Okay. I have some another work like office work also. Then I'm recording this video and taking the session also live session I am taking. Why? Because I have knowledge I am sharing. That's it. No issue. If you like the video, it's okay. If you do not like this video, it's okay. If dislike it, dislike. Not an issue. But if you really helpful this video, please like it. And join with Telegram channel for more PDF notes. Okay. So thank you for watching. We will meet next session, and next session we will write practical session. How all these things happen in the like debugging. I will show the debugging. How all classes I will show you. Okay. Thank you for watching. We will meet next session, guys. We will meet next session. And Spring Advance, oh yes, one mail is there. One person mailed to me, sir, taking advanced Java session. Okay, okay, I am trying. Why? Because three sessions, three batches are going on. First the Oracle and Spring Boot and Spring. That's why I'm busy and I have also some work on the office work, guys. That's why. Oh, otherwise, when I get this free slot, then I will start it. Don't worry, don't worry. I will upload it. I will upload it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for watching again. We will meet next session. Thank you. If you have a doubt, if you have any doubt, if you have related this, if you have a doubt related my course, just mail me. Mail me. You have mail, mail, anyone having it. Not having, just mail me Java by SVK@gmail.com. I will give you a suggestion. Okay. I will take. I uploaded one video. I will uploaded one video. Video is there like sting manipulation. Really, the awesome videos. Go and watch the 5 hours video. I will take it. I will take single short video in a 5 hours. Okay, so please go and watch. Okay, and share with your friends. If you really helpful these videos, I will give a link to this video link in the description also, and as well as I button and also end of the screen I will give you these things. Okay, thank you for joining me and thank you for liking me. Okay, okay, thank you for watching. Have a nice time.